I really don't care for the mascot horror trend for a few different reasons. Some are the fault of the games themselves, some more the audience, or, well, the caretakers of the audience who need to be paying attention to what their kids are playing. But overall, I just haven't really found them very enjoyable. For one thing, mascot horror is not for kids. It's just not. There's a lot of death, gore, and body horror involved in pretty much every mascot horror game I've ever seen. However, because of the designs of the characters, at least the ones you're introduced to early, and the settings, a lot of people don't realize just how dark it's going to get, which I get is some of the appeal for the adult audience, but it's a bit misleading when people are looking at games for their kids. This isn't the fault of the game creators, at least as long as they post appropriate warnings. They're not responsible for the fact that when I was a guide on a hiking trip for a local school, children who were way too young to be playing games like that were singing the Doughy song from Poppy Playtime. That is the responsibility of the parents who plop a tablet in their children's hands and let mommy YouTube raise their kids for them and don't take any steps to monitor what their children are being exposed to. I'm firmly in the camp that thinks kids should not have smartphones or tablets at all. Children need interaction with other human beings. They need tactile toys and to be physically involved in what they're playing. Climbing, running, holding things that develop their imagination and their bodies. So many kids entering kindergarten or first grade can barely hold a pencil because they haven't been holding on to things or using their hands very much. They haven't been coloring or playing with toys or making toys out of things they find. They just tap on a screen all day. Then there's what kids are being exposed to online. Not just human predators, but predatory content, advertising, and the kind of thing that makes a 10-year-old feel like she has to layer 6 different kinds of makeup from Sephora on to look okay. Or that makes kids think making videos of actions that are classified as assault is a valid career choice that they should chase. You ask a group of little kids what they want to be when they grow up, you don't get firefighter or vet or doctor or scientist anymore. You get YouTuber, TikToker, or the one that nearly made me sick, OnlyFans. This isn't the fault of the game makers. It's definitely on the parents. But to an extent, I can see how a parent would get tricked into thinking these games are okay for kids. If a child comes up and asks if they can buy a game called Poppy Playtime, and you look at it and you see what looks like colorful toy characters, you'd probably think nothing of it. It looks like the kind of games that they'd have kids play on in the computer labs at school back in the day, like the Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing or the detective puzzle games or things like that. It looks harmless and possibly even educational, like the Jumpstart games. Besides, plushies and figurines and stuff of the characters are in the toy aisles all over the place, meant for little kids, so surely that means it's fine and the game itself is meant for children. It's not. It's really not. The designs and marketing are very tricky and can easily be misleading to parents who aren't really into games and lead them to think that it's something safe. Speaking of kids, that's another thing that I am so tired of in these games. The sometimes in danger, usually already dead, kids. Need an instant way to make your antagonist seem terrible? Throw dead kids in the mix. You get a dead kid. You get a dead kid. Everybody gets dead kids. Look, I understand that most people have the instinctive desire to protect kids, whether we have or want them ourselves or not. And pretty much any parent worth the title would risk their life to protect their child. This is one thing that separates us from most animals, as many animals, prey species in particular, will often leave their children behind or sometimes even eat them themselves when times are tough. Rodents in particular do this. People who breed rabbits have to be careful that their breeding does don't get stressed, because if they do, they might just decide to eat their babies. Many animals will try to defend their young from some threats, but if the threat is something they don't feel confident against, they can and often do abandon their young to give themselves time to retreat. Kangaroos and wallabies will sometimes straight up dump their joeys out of their pouch as a sacrifice to give themselves more time to get away. From a survival standpoint, this makes sense. If the young dies, the adult can live on to have more and their bloodline will continue. If the parent dies, the young will probably die from starvation, predators, or whatnot, and the bloodline ends. To humans, obviously, this would be horrifying, and anybody who abandoned their child or purposely gave their child over as a sacrifice to protect themselves would be seen as a cowardly monster. It's largely our social structure that is to thank for that. It makes more sense with humans than it does with animals because, in the case of an orphaned human, other people will likely take them in and take care of them, and thus the individual's bloodline will still be continued as long as that child makes it to adulthood, which is far more likely than if they were an animal without the similar social structure. However, when it comes to fiction, it's a little harder to tug on the heartstrings with dead kids, especially when it's been done over and over. The horse is dead, folks. It's time to stop hammering the bones. When I played Red Dead Redemption 2, I cared about what happened to the characters, so much that playing to the end was heartbreaking, and I'm a person who rarely gets hung up on fictional characters. Seeing Arthur suffer made me actually cry a couple times, and I am not a person who cries easily. Why did I cry over this fictional character? Because I knew him. I knew who he was. I knew what he wanted out of life. I knew how he joked around and sang with his friends. I knew his sense of humor. I knew how brave he was, and how he could show kindness, even if in his own gruff way. I knew how he talked to his horse, how he was incredibly smart in some ways and less so in others, like looking around nervously when a paleontologist tells him that giant lizards are everywhere. I laughed at the look on his face when he realized the truth about the couple at the pig farm, and wanted revenge when he was hurt, because I knew him as a person. When it comes to these Mascot horror games, you don't know squat about the kids. It started out with just a few of them, and sometimes they're your character's kids, but you don't get any scenes or build-up to show any kind of connection to them. You're just told that you're supposed to care about them. In cases where the kids aren't yours, there's a lot of them, so the sheer numbers are supposed to be horrifying and make you disturbed, which doesn't really work. You don't even see any of them most of the time, not even in flashback. You have no connection to them. You don't know them. And if you don't know them, it's a lot harder to care about them, especially in the kinds of numbers that change them from individuals to a faceless mob. They stop holding any meaning, and without meaning, the stakes of the game are basically gone. I know Mascot horror is very popular, and a lot of people do really like it, but personally, I'm just tired of it, and couldn't really get into it to begin with. I am so sick of the happy, cutesy, adorable-looking world has a dark secret trope. It has been done to absolute death. I need to care about the characters I'm playing as, or that I'm supposed to be rescuing. I need a good story. And if the story of all of them can be summed up as bad people killed kids and now goofy-looking monsters are everywhere, I'm sorry, but I've got much better stories that I'd rather be invested in. I could at least appreciate the first few times it was done that it was something new and different. But now it's just a bunch of people hopping on the train, hoping to become popular when the train left the station and passed the stops long, long ago. I know true originality is kind of a myth, but if you're going to use a formula that's already in place, at least try to do something a little different with it. Thank you all for joining me. I'm trying some new designs and setups. Hopefully I can make a sort of template for my videos so I can get them done a little bit faster since school and work is picking up more. The world is really, really chaotic right now, so take a little time to just breathe and do something away from screens to give your brain and your eyes a break. Maybe do something like try to, if you're an adult, obviously, if you're old enough, give home brewing a try. Try something that's interesting but you haven't really given a shot and that doesn't require a whole lot of money to invest in. So even if the end product isn't great or usable even, it was still just, a fun experiment. Be safe, stay warm, or cool as the weather demands. Drink some water, and I'll see you in the next one.